Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dugout Daily. I'm Charlie, and I'm joined by Bernard and Dan. How are you both?
I'm great, Charlie. We're looking really well there, young man. Have you getting a bit of sun? Is that what it is?
There's not much sun around here. No.
It's been raining all day.
Definitely not too much sun around here. Thanks for having me on, Charlie, as well. It means a lot. Thank you very much, and nice to meet you, Bernard, as well.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Dan.
Yeah, we'll get straight to it. Start with you, Bernard. Thoughts on the performance on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a bit of both, wasn't it? I thought Burnley were excellent, to be honest with you, and I thought we were pretty dire. Obviously, up front, we were absolutely toothless for most of the game. Obviously, we managed to get a couple of goals, but no, I was quite impressed with Burnley. I know we'll talk a little bit more about it, but I think Dyche played it really well, and on another day, it's certainly on chances created, it probably could have been about 5-3 or something like that if we'd taken or everyone had took the chances, but. No, I know I was quite impressed. I was happy with the way Burnley played. It's apart from Mr. Pope. I don't like Mr. Pope's time wasting, but that's an old problem for me with Mr. Pope. I think he's done it before against us. But apart from that, I was very, very impressed with Burnley, to be honest with you.
Dan, thoughts on Burnley's performance?
Yeah, a lot better than what we've had in recent years. As I've said to you numerous times, Charlie, to be honest, that usually we are like. It's like Pep Guardiola walking into Battersea Dogs home and all dogs rolling over and letting Pep tickle them. That's what we do. 11 dogs roll over and just let their bellies get tickled. And I don't like it when that happens. I think we sit off a bit too much in games. I think we need to start pushing onto the front foot, which we've started seeing a bit more in our performances. I predicted 2-0 on my match preview. To be honest, I said even with this claret tinted glasses on. I said, if we lose 2-0, I'll take that. We did. It's for me personally, we need to be a bit more clinical with the chances. And when you've got players like Maxwell Carney, who pretty much in a way is just one man on his own, who obviously is a bit threatening to Man City in his, in recent times, in his Leon days as well. I mean, that stat that I saw prior to the game that Burnley have only scored something like 3 goals in the last 10 matches between us. But yet, Cornet's got like 3 goals in his last 4. And you're just like, right, okay, fair enough. The thing is as well, we need a few more players a bit like Cornet, where they sort of are able to see that bit of space, run into it. And that's what I like about Maxwell Cornet, that he gives us a different dimension, because we're, as Dash likes to call it, a mature footballing team. We've been in and around the league now for, long enough. I think that a few more bodies that are a bit more agile can read where the next pass is coming from, get into that pocket of space. It'll open teams up a bit more, but we've only got it with the one person. So yeah, it's always nice, but there was a couple of bugbears from me, but I'm sure we'll talk about them a bit later on.
Yeah. We'll just quickly go through the stats from the game. We had 71% possession, more shots, a lot more shots, probably double Burnley, 4 more corners, a lot more fouls, 1 more yellow card. So it was mostly us, to be honest. And then on the attack momentum, but as you can see at the bottom, Burnley did have some periods of attack, a few chances, but once we got the second goal, I thought we were safe. Did you, Bernard?
Yeah, I mean, that bar graph makes it look brilliant, doesn't it? And I don't remember that. I don't remember that bar graph at all from being there and watching it. It wasn't like that to me. I thought, obviously, I think what it was, I think the Burnley chance, we were far quicker and far more ruthless and better chances than we were getting. I think a lot of our play was just breaking down too early. So that sort of bar graph, if you look at that, does sort of show that obviously it's a bit misleading in a way, isn't it? If you think about it, I think you'd agree with that, Charlie and Dan. I think I don't think it was anything like that. I didn't watch the highlights on Match of the Day or anything like that, but I'm sure they usually show a fairer split of what the play was, and certainly Burnley far more impressive than that bar graph shows, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Would you agree with that, Dan?
Yeah, I'd agree with what Bernard said there. I think, as I say, we have gone a bit more on the front foot. We've liked to get in the faces a little bit more. We're not trying to just stick to this sort of, as people have been calling him recently, Sean Allardash, because, that's how it's been getting with this long ball. And the only problem I have with that is that you sort of open yourself up a bit more at the back, when you try to be a little bit more expansive. And I've started to sort of watch games, but not just watch games as a fan, but watch the game and analyse it. And sometimes I will sit there and, I've got mates sat at the side of me screaming, "Oh, it's a pen," or, in certain scenarios. And I'm like, not really. If the shoe was on the other foot, would you have given it? Sometimes you've got to be that sceptical person, and I've probably lost a couple of mates while saying that. But, it's one of them things. I think on the basis of the game, just some of the. I just think back to the second half. We bring Ashley Barnes on. We a couple of minutes. He's had at least 3 opportunities, and I think anybody else other than Ashley Barnes, and we could have seen the ball in the back of the net. I think Ashley Barnes for me is finished. I do not think Ashley Barnes is half the player he once was. It's all well and good. Thank him for everything he's done for Burnley Football Club. No matter what, he'll go down as one of the greats. He's probably got. I think he's our all-time highest Premier League goal scorer.
Sounds a bit like Sterling, this, Dan, to be honest with what you're saying here.
I mean, the thing is with Barnes, obviously, he's got to an age now where his football career is starting to sort of. You get to 35, 34, you start to stagnate a bit. Unless you've got the quality of Zlatan Ibrahimovic and you can just pull a worldie out of nowhere. But the thing is with Zlatan, he's got players around him that can still play to a high level. Ashley Barnes is expected to still be that big shithouse up top that at the moment can't even shithouse. He's sort of just really stagnated and declined, in my opinion. And I think that we need a striker. We need somebody else in there. But as I say, anybody other than Barnes in them opportunities. I mean, the one when he first came on, he was on his own in the box and he pretty much just played a pass back to your keeper. And I was just like, the Ashley Barnes of 2-3 years ago would have smashed his laces through it or wrapped it round open for a top corner finish. And it just wasn't to be. I mean, we can see that our problems are putting the ball in the net. You only have to go back to our last couple of games. The chances have been there. The Norwich game, Christ, we threw everything at them. The wife, the bank account, the house, the kid, just everything got thrown at Norwich, and they still walked away with a point. It's absolutely devastating because if I look at any team that we're emulating at the moment, we've sort of tried to get on the front foot, and we're a little bit like Fulham. We've started to show some nice periods of football, nice periods of play, but no reward. And in the end, it bit Fulham in the arse. And I think if we don't start getting some points on the board, we're going to end up being, emulating Fulham and probably back down to the Championship, which people say, it's not going to happen. Dash always finds a way. You have that run of 4 or 5 games and it always, saves you by the skin of your teeth. But last season should have been the kick up the arse. That should have been the one where, right, there were no fans. You've got fans now. Your 12th man's behind you. Let's do it. We've always been known for Turf Moor being a fortress. It's not. We've not won at Turf Moor since January. There is worrying signs.
I said in my summing up, I think, on my little thing of the review of the game, and I said, but you just got to turn Turf Moor into one of those places people don't like going again. And unless you do that, you're going to really, really struggle. And I did notice that. As I say, that's very important, Turf Moor to Burnley, to stay and survive. And I say, if you can turn that round, that's half the battle, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We need something. Something's got to give. Obviously, I don't understand the fan base that's questioning Dash. In my honest opinion, the only thing I can question Dash on is his substitutions. That's the only thing that's a bugbear for me with Sean Dash at the moment. That the substitutions are right. It's always like for like, and it doesn't change shape. If you're not going to change your shape and adapt to the fact that the opposition's changed shape, like for like's not going to do anything. So what's the point? We saw that with the Brighton game on the opening game of the season. We saw it against Everton. All they had to do was bring an extra body in the midfield. We were overrun and we conceded. Straight at, and we were already 1-0 up in those games. We've chucked so many 1-0 leads away. It's unreal. So it does worry me. It does worry me. But on the basis of that game against Manchester City, before a ball's kicked, we're all like, yeah, here it comes, standard 5-0. Why am I even watching it? That's one of the questions. You sat there with your hands like this going, why am I even watching it? But you get to half time and it's, and you're thinking 1-0, we're still in this. We're still in this. And it was just one of them. That the only optimism I had. I found it at every bottom of can that I was drinking, to be honest. That's where I found the optimism. But other than that, it was just it was just one of those days. And I'll take 2-0. As I say, you come up against those big sides, they're free hits. So why not?
Yeah. We'll go through the players, Bernard. Starting with City. First of all, the keeper, Steffen. He played all right, in my opinion. 2 saves, 2 successful run-outs. I think he played well, did you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Steffen is, people are saying, I told you he was a good goalie. But, a year ago, he wasn't the same goalie he is now. He's had time to learn what's going on. He played well against Wickham the other week when he came in. And I think that is coming in for that game yesterday. He did really well as well. That save from corner, wasn't it, in the first half? But he come out and blocked and made himself big. Someone said, someone on Twitter said Ederson would have let that through his legs. So I said, well, have you got a crystal ball? Because how do you know Ederson would have let it through his legs? But people want to have a dig at one City player for another. City fans are terrible for that. The people defending Sterling and slagging other Mahrez off and stuff like this. And I saw exactly the same with Ederson and Steffen. Steffen did a good job, but he's not Ederson by any means. But I'm sort of a lot happier with him now than I was, say, 12 months ago as a backup keeper, and that's what he is. Let's be honest about it. He's a backup keeper. I'm quite happy now. I was sort of the jury was out, but I thought he had a really good game yesterday. Yeah, I was quite happy with it.
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you what though, Charlie, as well with Steffen. One thing that he did as well, which I thought were really good, was he commanded his box. He was out to everything, no matter what. And I think
you have to do that against Burnley. Ederson's not great. Big lad. Yeah, Ederson's not great.
If he'd have stuck to his line like you had back in the days of Joe Hart, you'd have been, it'd have been a case of, oh crap, what we got going on here. But yeah, Steffen, we're up for the task and fair play. Probably one of the standout performers for City as well. A bit of an unsung hero in that game.
4 players down who played well, and he was one of the 4.
Yeah. At right back was João Cancelo. He was, as you can see from the heat map in the top right, he was up and down the wing all game. He had a major part in the first goal, taking it past his man to find, I think it was De Bruyne on the edge, or someone else, I can't remember. And then Bernardo Silva had a tap in for the first goal. How do you think he played?
I think we've talked about this before. I think he's great going forward, but defensively, I think he got that Cornet thing. I can't. Is it Cornet or Cornet? However you say Cornetto or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, Cancelo. I'm old-fashioned. I want a left back to defend, and obviously playing for Pep, you don't. You obviously have to. It's how you get forward and get back. But for every good thing you did going forward, I've said this many times, there was a bad thing you did in defence, and I just don't. I rated him okay. He didn't have a bad game, but going forward, brilliant. Defending, not so much.
Yeah. The 2 centre backs. First of all, John Stones, who I found out about 15-20 minutes ago, he's actually not travelled to Belgium for the Club Brugge game, which is disappointing. But how do you think he played?
I think he played excellent. I don't remember him doing anything wrong. I thought, to me, I will still prefer Stones and Diaz as our centre half partnership. But if he's not travelled now to Bruges, that's a bit disappointing to be honest with you. But say Laporte's been doing an excellent job, but of course, and Laporte and Diaz is no sad thing to have at the back. But I thought Stones did a good steady. He's one of my best players again yesterday. Everything he seemed to, I don't think he put a foot wrong, to be honest with you, yesterday.
Yeah. His partner, you mentioned him there, Emerick Laporte. How do you think he played?
Yeah, he did okay. Again, say he's always looks better with Diaz. I think any player will look better with Diaz, won't he? But Laporte himself, there's no obvious things. As I said, Burnley had a few chances, but he couldn't sort of isolate any of our real defenders as causing the problem. So I thought Laporte was okay. I thought obviously they weren't getting cover from the midfield, and that's where Burnley were getting a lot of joy getting it. That what's he called? McNeal. Obviously was putting some passes through, especially that one for Cornet, of course, which he perhaps could have done better with. But it was interesting. The head-to-head was McNeal and KDB. I was looking at the stats. It was quite interesting. But obviously he did a KDB-type pass once or twice, didn't he? So yeah. So I thought Laporte was okay. As I said, even though Burnley did sort of get through a couple of times, I can't really put my finger on and say it was that such and such a defender. You know what I mean? I think it was just an overall thing.
Yeah. At left back, which I haven't seen him play before, Nathan Ake. How do you think he played?
I like Ake. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Ake. People are against him, but he was comfortable coming forward. All right, defending again. There was nothing particularly I found that he did wrong. It sort of bypassed him at the sort of left back anyway. But I was happy with Ake's performance. He was one of the 4 players that are rated highly again.
Yeah. Into the midfield, Rodri. He's on good form recently. How do you think he played?
Yeah, again, he played well. He strolled around. He sort of makes it look easy, doesn't he? But as I said, it's another one of those things where sort of, I think Burnley managed to sort of bypass him a few times, but he was sort of protecting that defence a little bit. So it could have been a lot worse without Rodri. So again, he's as consistent as he has been for most of the season so far.
Yeah. The man who scored the first goal, some people are saying is our best player at the moment, Bernardo Silva.
Well, yeah, this is of all the players. The next 4 you're going to mention have all got low marks from me. But Bernardo, I mean, he's been our man of the match 4 out of the last 5 games, and equally so yesterday. He was unbelievable. He's so frustrated as well because he missed chances, he missed things. But it was so brilliant. You can't really hold it against him because he was absolutely. He's like the Duracell Bernardo, isn't he? He just keeps going and going and going, and he must be annoying for teams. You know, obviously for Burnley yesterday, he must have been a pain in the bum. You know, but it's a pain for any team he plays because even didn't quite work. He's going to pick that ball up again and have another go. But for me, again, yesterday he was our star player again, Bernardo.
And looking at the heat map there, he was everywhere on the pitch, in attack, getting back as well. And in my opinion, the best piece of business we did this summer was keeping him at the club and not getting rid.
Yeah, I still think he might be off sooner rather than later, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. I keep hearing things from Pep saying I'm trying to convince him to stay and things, which is a bit of a worry, to be honest with you. But if he wants to go, that's how it is, isn't it? If he wants to go, then that's best for him, and good luck to him.
Yeah. The man who scored the second goal then, Kevin De Bruyne. How do you think he played?
A bit like the Liverpool game for me. He wasn't that great, to be honest with you, but he saved himself by putting the ball in the net, and that's all we can ever ask, really. If you have a bad game and score a goal, I'll take that 9 times out of 10. I'm quite happy with that. But again, as I said before that goal, I would have probably rated him sort of 5.5 out of 10. I thought he had a pretty quiet game, but that sort of goal, he was in the right spot at the right time to put it in the net. So he sort of went up a little bit because of that. But he's still not at form yet. We're still waiting for him to get into some sort of form at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah. Even though he scored in the Liverpool game and on Saturday, he's not
exactly the same, really. He wasn't the greatest against Liverpool, but he scored a goal, and that's all right. It was a bit of help from the defender, but he put the ball on target. So, yeah, he just, as long as he does that, I'm quite happy. We can't either too much, can we? Can't complain too much, can we? Really?
Yeah. Into the attack, starting with Riyad Mahrez on the right. How do you think he played?
Well, I've said before, I thought the forward 3 were awful, to be honest with you, all 3 of them. Mahrez wasn't the worst. We'll get on to the worst in a minute. But Mahrez, he tried things, and he was certainly complicit in that second goal. He caused a lot of aggro in the box for Burnley, and it led to that KDB goal. But, he was out of sorts. These are the sort of games Mahrez needs to step up and do something. If he wants to get in this first team for the big games, no disrespect, Dan, you know what I'm saying, for the sort of Liverpool games, the Chelsea games, the Champions League games, he's got to step up, and he just didn't. He just, I don't know, he just sulks for me. I think he sulks when he's not getting regular starts in the 11, and I wasn't overly impressed yesterday. As I said, thankfully he was buzzing around for that second goal, but apart from that, I think he had 2 chances that he missed, that he blasted. I think he skied one, he sent it up into the third tier of the south stand, one shot, it was awful, and I think he glanced the bar with another, didn't he, in the second half? Yeah. Just not good enough. He hit the target. All he has to do is caress it into the top corner or something. That's what he's good at, but he didn't. He just lack of composure, which is very worrying.
Yeah, it's strange as well, because he's one of those players against Burnley that he infuriates me every time. When I saw the team sheet and saw that Mahrez was starting, I thought, oh shit, here we go. Because the past couple of years he's bagged at tricks. When it comes up against us,
I honestly think at the moment he's sulking, Dan. I think this is the problem at the moment. He's not happy. It's not going his way. He's not getting in there as one of the first names on the team sheet, and he doesn't like that. He doesn't enjoy that. But like another player we're going to talk about in a minute, he has to work. He has to work to get back on that starting 11, and he's one of these guys who perhaps doesn't look as though he does. I mean, I'm sure he's making some sort of effort, because Pep would hook him off, won't he? But he's not convincing anyone at the moment.
Oh, what were them words that Neil Warnock said? You've got to kinder to get 3 points.
Yeah. On to the next one, Raheem Sterling.
He's the one I keep talking about. That was absolute. I mean, he's another one that he says he wants to play more games. I'm sorry, you come into a game like that, you've got to do something to warrant playing in games, and I'm sure Dan would probably agree with me. He was absolutely non-existent. He was non-existent yesterday. He was just. I think there was one good chance he had that didn't quite work out. That could have gone. I think he got blocked or something like that, and that had gone in the net, it might have been okay. But we know Sterling. He's just not at it at the moment. And no matter what Pep does, whether he sticks him on for the last 10 minutes of a game or whatever it is, he's not for lack of effort, don't get me wrong, but it's just not working for Sterling at the moment. And I say that's not going to inspire anyone or Pep to put him on his starting 11 for any games. And someone said to me he'll play against Bruges, and I thought, well, if he plays against Bruges, I'll just cry my eyes out. I just don't believe it, because he's just not good enough. He's not earned any sort of place in this team at the moment. And we love him, like Dan was talking about his guy earlier on. Because we love him, we thank him for what he did a couple of years ago and 3-4 years ago, what he's done for us. But I'm sorry, as at this point in time, he's done pretty much nothing for a season and a half, unfortunately. So it's not just a run of 6 or 7 games, it's a run of a lot of games, and it is very worrying. And I don't know what we do apart from he gets a new start somewhere, which will be good for him and probably good for us if it happens. And I think that's probably at this point in time the best thing that can happen.
Yeah. And then the final starter, Phil Foden, was on the left on Saturday. How do you think he played?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a great game, but I think the England thing has caught up with him, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of pressure on him playing for England, and I think this was a game too far. I think Pep should have perhaps kept him out of this one. Perhaps played someone else. Because he just wasn't really effective. I don't remember him doing anything particularly in it. He didn't have a great game. He worked hard as he always does. You look at that heat map there, obviously up on the left, but that's not. I mean, we like him up there, but we want him a bit more around that pitch, don't we? We don't want him stuck on that left-hand side like that. He's not a winger, he's a winger who comes in and causes problems and switches over and messes about and moves around a lot. And I think the England games just sort of wore him out a little bit. I think he could have done with the rest, to be honest with you, yesterday. He just didn't really show anything at all.
Yeah. Onto the subs. Ruben Diaz, the first one, was only on for about 20 minutes. Didn't have to do much, did he, really? No.
I think obviously they had a very late chance, didn't they? I think where Wood should have done better with a shot that grazed the top of the bar when it was easier probably to score, wasn't it, than miss, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened with that on 79 minutes. I think Diaz was on the pitch then. But again, you couldn't say it was such and such his fault. It was just one of those things. It's just some good work from Burnley. So, yeah, Diaz didn't have much time to make any real impact on the game.
Yeah. Next up, Fernandinho was only on for 10 minutes. Didn't have to do much.
Yeah, this is it now with Ferner, isn't it? He's just going to be a bit part player all season, isn't he? I thought he'd play a bit more, actually. I thought he might have started yesterday against Burnley, to be honest with you. And the fact he didn't, I think, is a bit of a worry for Ferner as well. He's just as though he's just been put to one side now, and it's just Rodri, and that's it. Nobody else. Ferner's not even getting a look in. So I certainly can't see him starting in Bruges on Tuesday. So, as I say, if he's not going to start against Burnley, when will he start Premier League games? I'm not too sure, to be honest. He's not going to see much action apart from cup games, perhaps Carabao Cup and FA Cup, perhaps stuff like that. But it's very disappointing because he had a good late season last season. He played really well last season again, a bit like his old self, and now he's not getting the chance. But as I say, he didn't get much chance to do anything again yesterday for about 5 or 10 minutes he was on.
Yeah, the final sub, Cole Palmer, was hardly on the pitch, but then played later and scored a hat-trick for the
that's it. I think Pep just brought him on to make sure his hamstrings were okay, just to warm him up, to shoot him across the bridge to the Academy Stadium so he could score his hat-trick. That was quite funny, wasn't it, really? I mean, unusual to say the least, but I think it was just to make sure he was well warmed up for Leicester in the EDS match, which was it 5-0? It ended up, was it 5-0?
Yeah, 5-0, and he scored an hat-trick.
He's perhaps the next Phil Foden, Mr. Palmer, Dan, if you don't ever see much.
Well, at least you got a 5-0 on the day. At least, it wasn't against us.
You got 1-5-0. There you go. But he didn't have a day. It was just nice to see him. But again, for a couple of minutes.
Yeah. We'll move to you now, Dan, with Burnley, starting with Nick Pope. How do you think he played?
I think Nick Pope's had a bit of a turbulent season, to be honest. I can understand why he wasn't called up for the England squad. He's not been 100% since his injury. There's not much really to say. I think, apart from the 2 goals, really, both keepers didn't have much to do in the game. It was definitely a case of, pinball around the midfield. And don't get me wrong, there were efforts, there were shots. They had to be called up when they were called upon. But other than that, there were periods of the game where they could have just sat out and had a picnic, pretty much. And that's not just Pope, that's Steffen as well. Which says a lot about the game itself.
I think Steffen worked harder than Pope, to be honest with you, on 90 minutes. I think Steffen had far more to do. I think Pope had said, apart from the 2 goals, all right, and so the other shots were either over or nowhere near, so he didn't have anything really to do. I
think for the first goal, Pope will be a bit peed off about that because
he got a big hand on it.
He's made the save, and as a keeper, you've got to be able to react to that second ball pretty quick, and he just couldn't. And it's not just him, but Tarkovsky couldn't even get in front of it. And that just goes to show the caliber of player you've got in Bernardo Silva, that he can see what, he's anticipating that next move. It's a bit like when you play pool and snooker, you set yourself up for your next shot. And I think that's what you've got to look for in the mindset of a footballer sometimes. And, fair enough, he got the save, but it just wasn't meant to be. So, yeah, Nick Pope, all in all, not a bad game, but not a great game either.
Yeah. Next up, Matt Lalton at right back was up and down quite a lot, to be fair, looking at the heat map. How do you think he played?
Yeah, not too bad. You know something, since a lot of people, since Jeff Hendrick left the club and went to Newcastle, everyone was saying Matthew Lalton will probably be that next scapegoat, that whenever things go wrong at Burnley, he'll be the one that takes all the crap. He'll be the one that everyone whinges at. And he hasn't. He's not been that at all. If anything, he's been quite resolute. Last year we had a lot of playing Phil Bardsley there, and to have Matt Lalton come in and put in some of the performances he has done, it's hard to say with the Burnley players though. In that Man City game, it's pretty much like what Bernard said. There's no real standout players from either side. It was a case of, there was the odd 1 or 2 that actually performed. And other than that, that was it. But yeah, Matt Lalton, I think, was pretty solid on that right-hand side. If anything, everything pretty much came from the left. As usual with Burnley, we sort of conceded a lot from the left recently. So yeah, on the right, I was pretty happy with Lalton's performance.
Yeah. The 2 in the middle, first of all, Ben Mee was missing, which I think is a big miss for Burnley. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, massively. Obviously, while I'm here as well, just hope he gets well soon, recovers. Obviously, he was out due to COVID, so hopefully, there's nothing too serious, and he recovers soon, and his family's all right. But yeah, other than that, a big miss.
Yeah. Former City player as well, Ben Mee, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So his replacement was Nathan Collins. How do you think he played?
Ready-made player, in my opinion. Will definitely slot in well alongside Ben Mee when we eventually lose James Tarkovsky. I think he was pretty solid in that game. There were an effort where from City came forward and he just got a toe on it at full stretch, and it were brilliant, last ditch tackle. I think we've got a good one there, and as I say, he's only 19, 20 years old, something like that. I was really, really happy with his performance, really, really happy. And to be fair, we've done that Burnley recently, where we've sort of churned out decent players at the back. We used to do it up front. We'd sell our main goal scorers, and everyone would be like, "Well, Arsenal's going 20p, 50p, and all that stuff." So we'd go from like losing Charlie Austin to all of a sudden the emergence of Danny Ings. Danny Ings going, and us thinking, "Crap, where's the goals coming from?" Then Andre Gray came in and we're firing. But now it seems that all that's happening at the back. We had a brief stint with goalkeepers. Tom Eaton, and then Nick Pope took over, and now we're having it with defenders. Michael Keane's gone on to better things. Tarkowski's soon to probably leave us and go on to better things. So Ben Mee's an unsung hero, really, in my opinion. How he's not been called up for England in a way because of the three lads he's had at the side of him. Have all played decent, and he hasn't. I think if Sam Allardyce would have still been manager of England, Ben Mee probably would have been in. But other than that, yeah, Nathan Collins had probably one of the standout performers for me in that game for Burnley.
Yeah, you mentioned him there, James Tarkovsky. How do you think he played?
All right. I don't think he sort of tore it up. There's elements to his game now that I'm starting to see where he's a little bit slow to react. He can be a bit static. We saw it as well when Michael Keane first went to Everton, that he started showing signs of it as well, that he had the odd mistake in him. I'm not saying that he had any mistakes in that game, because he didn't. As a defensive unit, they had to stand tall together. But yeah, not much I could say about Tarkowski. I think if anything, he had a decent game, but nothing much to shout about.
Yeah. Left back was Eric Peters. How do you think he played?
He stands off players a bit too much for my liking. I like him as a player, and a lot of people was like, "Wow, we signed another Stoke reject, blah blah blah," and stuff like that. But I think he's a good player, but he needs to get on the front foot, needs to get in the face of the winger. He keeps just standing off too much, and it allows them a bit more mobility, a little bit more time to get in the box. And I'm not just saying against Man City. I saw it against Rochdale in the Cup as well. It's, if you can't cut it against Rochdale, who are League Two, you definitely, you're not going to be ripping it up against Manchester City, are you, when you've got that quality there? And I say quality, I mean, you could have put Flaming at anybody from your youth system in, and they'd have still Flaming been higher than League Two quality. So it's a strange one. As I say, I like him as a footballer. I just think he needs to add certain elements to his game.
Yeah. On the right was Josh Brownhill, but went into the middle a couple of times from the heat map. How do you think he played?
Yeah, but I think, as I say, don't know what's happening there. I'm turning into Dash now. I think it was a spirited performance. But yeah, he was all right. I think we held our own in midfield pretty much. As Bernard said, Kevin De Bruyne didn't really rip anything up until his inclusion in the second goal. It's one of them things where it was such a midfield battle. There wasn't much to really shout about. There wasn't tackles flying in here, there, and everywhere. It was almost, in a way, for a 2-0 game, quite a dull affair.
He should have scored Brownhill, shouldn't he? Well, he should have done better. He should have got it on target. That one he skewed past the post. I mean, that was a typical midfielder's shot, wasn't it, in front of goal? But
he's still not got his first goal, Premier League goal yet. He's still looking for that. So
probably why he missed. He probably sort of saw glory, didn't he, and just sort of rushed it and sort of messed it up a bit. But there you go.
No, definitely. As you say, he's again one of those players, pretty much like what Bernard said with KDB. He didn't really do anything other than his attempt on goal.
Yeah. In the midfield, Ashley Westwood was all over the pitch, really, looking at the heat map. How do you think he played?
I like Ashley Westwood as a player. I think he does get himself about a lot, and sometimes that really does help. A lot of people can see that and think, well, he's running around, that's what he's paid to do, blah, blah, blah. But it's not just about that. It's the fact that you see there from that heat map that he's literally everywhere. And in those periods of the game, he could be drawing players out of position, making sure that we've got other players trying to filter into that space that's now been created. People don't sometimes look at it when they're not analysing the game. They just think he's running around like an headless chicken, but he's not. He's obviously trying to do something. But as you say, probably in that game, he probably did run around like an headless chicken because there were nothing to show for it at the end of it.
Yeah. In midfield next to Ashley Westwood was Jack Cork. How do you think he played?
I thought he had a bad game, to be fair. The heat map shows how static he was.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like looking at a map of England telling you where the nearest booper is. You know what I mean? It's pretty bad. He's getting older now. Don't get me wrong, but I see him more as a defensive midfielder. And I think if you sort of slotted him in behind two midfielders, he'd play pretty well. But yeah, I don't think Jack Cork had a good game, to be honest, in my opinion.
Yeah. On the left was Dwight McNeal. How do you think he played?
I think he coped pretty well. The thing is with Dwight McNeal, he always shows up in these sort of games, and I don't know whether he's, obviously you need to show up consistently, in my opinion. You need to show up week in, week out. I've started to notice again, similar to, as I said, with Eric Peters, with Dwight McNeal, he can have one good game and then the next two or three are sort of bang average. And it hurts me saying that because he's such a talent. We've been screaming out for a winger like that since Glenn Little. Glenn Little were a lanky streak of piss who people thought probably wouldn't move much. He wouldn't be as agile because he was so tall, but he could get in behind players. He was a bit of a wing wizard, and it worked. And when he's actually on his day, he is pretty well. But again, as you see from the heat map, he was all over the place. And I suppose that's, in a way, a testament to Manchester City because you're drawing those players out to try and get, in your players' faces. But on the basis of the game, I don't feel we were in your faces as much as we should have been.
Yeah. Next up, Maxwell Carney, who has a brilliant record against us. Basically, scores every game he plays against us. How do you think he played? Yeah. How do you think he played?
I think he did pretty well to begin with. I think he started pretty well. I didn't get the substitution. Why Dash took him off, in my opinion, was the wrong thing to do. He was pretty much our creative spark, and if we were going to get something, it would probably have come from him. I think he had, was it Cancelo that he was up against, or Ake, one of the two. I think he had their number a couple of times and got him behind, and I thought maybe that's where we'll get a creative spark from. But when he came off, I was sat there, and it wasn't just me. I went straight to Twitter. I was looking at things when they were announcing the substitution, and everyone's like, WTF? Why are you bringing off our most creative player for? This player's won games against Man City on his own, and you're taking him off. What are you playing at? And I stand with what they said. I stand with what they say because it was embarrassing. That's the thing that I can only pull Dash up about. I hate the fact of what he did at that moment of the game. It was pathetic. you can't take a guy that's been creative. He's not even had a bad game. He's not had a bad game at all. And you've took him off, and it really peed me off after that. I sat there sort of thinking, well, if we lose 5-0, well done, Dash. You've chucked the game away. And that's how I felt. I felt really aggrieved by it in a way, which you do in that heat of the moment. You're peed off. You're a bit like, oh, God's sake. But yeah, I really like him as a player. As I said off camera to you, he gets into that space. It's about time we had a player like that, because we're so static. It's like having 10 other robots on the field and one guy trying to run around with a controller. He's just Maxwell Carney have my babies, honestly. I love the guy.
Next up, the final starter, Chris Wood. How do you think he played?
It wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. I just think sometimes Chris Wood can be very isolated when he's playing up top on his own. I know that Cornet was sort of every now and again playing up alongside him and then kept coming back. But he can be so isolated. I think that's what used to work with, Wood and Barnes. One used to play off the other. That doesn't work anymore. It's just not worked for the last 2 years. We've been hoping that Vidra sort of emerges and he crops up with the odd bit here and there. But yeah, Chris Wood on his own can be very isolated, and he's not one that will just jump up and try and get an header and score from that header from edge of the box, where we had a player in Sam Vokes that used to be like that. So I don't know. Chris Wood for me, infuriating to watch in that game. I think apart from that chance what you said, Bernard, which, to be honest, even if he had got it in, I think it would have been ruled off. It was just one of those. He's very isolated on his own. He needs somebody there to sort of play off, or somebody to help play a ball into him behind.
Yeah. The substitutes. The first one was Ashley Barnes, who replaced Maxwell Carney. How do you think he played?
Oh, well, if that don't sum it up, I don't know what does. As I said, a pass back to Steffen. I don't know why you did that. Anybody else in claret and blue, or should I say navy blue, because that's the kit we were wearing, would have put that in the back of the net, or at least come further into goal and made the keeper come out, and then had to make a quick split decision. But he didn't. He sort of snapped at it. The other 2 or 3 opportunities he had, they were just little like one-hit wonders, and there were nothing where he should have, the ball should have been in the back of the net. It's infuriating, because week in, week out, when every time they announce that Barnes comes on now, fans are getting annoyed. Fans are getting to a point where they're turning to each other now thinking, well done, Dash, you've now just gone down to 10 men. Well done. That's sort of how bad Ashley Barnes has got in certain fans' perspective. And as I said off camera, and as you've said about Raheem Sterling, you've done your bit. Thank you very much for what you've done for the club. But who's the guy from Arsenal TV? It's time to go.
Next up, Johan Berg Gudmundsson. Weren't on for a long time. How do you think he played?
Yeah, again, didn't get to see much of him. As you've already stated, City had 70% of the possession, so we didn't really get to see him much with the ball. Apart from probably if they had the cameras on at half time and they were warming up, that's probably the only time he got to, have a decent amount on the ball, if I'm honest. But yeah, he's a decent player, and to be honest with you, if he can stay injury free, will be a really big help for us this season. But last year he had his demons with injuries, and I just hope to God that we can keep him fit, and hopefully a good run of games will see his performances get a lot better for us.
Yeah, and the final player was Jay Rodriguez, who was on the pitch for less than 10 minutes. He doesn't even have a heat map. That tells you everything, really.
Yeah. Well, that says nothing. Says everything. Sorry. It was just one of those last-ditch attempts by Sean Dash. Throw on the last striker on the bench and go for it. See what see what happens. But
Yeah.
you're already 2-0 down. Unless you push 11 men forward, you're not going to do all. So,
it would have been all right because our front three wouldn't have scored in a month for Sundays anyway. So you could have done that anyway. It doesn't matter.
I was surprised at the amount of efforts that you sort of had and sent over the bar. Usually, back of the net, hard and low, bang. So I was a bit like...
Even when we went 1-0 ahead at 12 minutes, we weren't playing well. And you could just, as City fans, we just sort of know when it's not clicking. And even, within 12 or 15 minutes watching City, we sort of, even at 1-0, it just didn't seem right. And we knew nothing was going to change because Pep doesn't make half-time substitutions or anything like that. So we were going to have to suffer and watch it all game.
Commentators said exactly the same, Bernard, to be fair. Commentators actually said that you can see the worry on City fans' faces at half time that at 1-0, Burnley are a team that could claw themselves back into it, and they were City fans stood there like this, like, oh my god, and
it just was one of those days for City where we just didn't work at all. Nothing worked basically, apart from 3 or 4 players. The rest of them, they just lethargic. I said on my thing, and he just looked lethargic on the day. Which is we take the 3 points and we're happy with that, and that's all you can say really. We can't say anything more than that.
No, definitely.
Yeah. You covered it there, Dan. I was going to ask you next, how do you think City played? But you basically said they weren't at their best, were they?
No. As I say, the goals that were scored weren't even sort of City type goals. They were sort of put on a plate. You had to be in the right place at the right time sort of goals. It was just, the first one, as you say, Pope saved it, should have reacted quicker. If not, Tarkovsky should have reacted quicker and just booted it anywhere. You learn that at Sunday League, just put the ball out, just get rid of it, clear it, see you later, that's it. But none of them reacted quick enough. Silva was already there and did the business. The second goal, I was a bit annoyed at our defending for that. Because obviously at first there was a bit of a pinball and stuff like that. But you can't let City pass around your box. I don't care how qualified you are to be a footballer. Get in the faces of them. VAR's there. If you've not done anything wrong, then you've not done anything wrong. The cameras will pick that up. But at least you've shown a fight and a willingness to close the man down, and you haven't. And it comes to something where obviously the second stab of it, De Bruyne has actually put it in the back of the net. And
as fairness as well, Dan. I think Atkinson was the ref, wasn't he? Was that Atkinson?
Yeah, Martin Atkinson.
Yeah, he sort of unusually, we seem to get all the sort of 50-50s as well. So, I mean, that sort of went our way as well. And we took the couple of good chances that we did get. But as I say, it's Atkinson isn't usually like that. He usually cocks up for both teams, but obviously I thought it was a bit kinder to us yesterday for some reason. I don't know. Perhaps we promised him something. Perhaps we promised him some shares or something. I'm not too sure, but that all went against Burnley. As I say, I was quite impressed with how Burnley, and it wasn't just that City were bad, which we were. Don't get me wrong, but Burnley made affected that display as well. It wasn't just City having an off day. Burnley actually made I think they decided that, if you're going to lose 5-0, what's the point? Let's go for a different way of doing it, and we might get something out. It's not good turning up every year and getting beat 5-0 playing the same way, is it? So, just have a go at something else. And I think they tried it last season. It didn't quite come off, and I think it's sort of worked a little bit. So by the next one, mate, you're sorted. You've got a draw at least by the next time we play you, because obviously you're improving all the time.
Who knows? I was there in 2009 when we were under Owen Coyle and we drew 3-3. That were a good game, very end to end. But it's been like that for years, and I only realised that recently. I downloaded Stan Ternant's autobiography, which he only put in his Burnley tenure up to like 2002. But even during then, he said, we got into the first division and it seemed like the norm happened. It was the 5-0, 6-1 drubbing against Manchester City and stuff like that. And I thought, shit, even back then we were still bloody struggling. So, and that were the likes of probably Danny Mills and all that. And
classics.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We'll ask you, Dan, how do you think Martin Atkinson did.
I think obviously, as Bernard's already said, most of the 50-50s went City's way. Other than that, I think you let the game go quite a lot. You get a lot of referees. The guy against Norwich, what's he got? Friend Kevin Friend. He was an absolute arsehole, and that's being nice. That's being nice. He were literally everything was going in Norwich's way. I'm sure he had a punt on Norwich because they were probably big odds. But Atkinson let the game go. He wasn't whistle happy. He wasn't, pulling cards out left, right, and centre. I didn't think he had a bad game. To be fair, it was one of those games where really he didn't have to do anything other than turn up.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll ask you quickly, Bernard. Were you at the game, Dan, or did you just watch it all?
No, I watched it on a perfectly legal stream, and it was clearly good to watch.
We'll ask you about the fans then, Bernard. How do you think the fans were?
Yeah, it was very quiet. I mean, it was quiet on the pitch, off the pitch. I mean, the Burnley fans were very quiet as well. It was just nice. We stand next to them, basically. We stand next to the away fans in the bottom section. I think they returned quite a few as well, didn't they? About 1,100 tickets as well. So they didn't have the third tier was in there. So, yeah, it was very, on the pitch and off the pitch, it was very quiet. It got a bit lively when we realised United were getting beat 3-1. All of a sudden, we come alive as fans, and the Burnley fans came alive as well. So it was a bit of banter then, but it was a bit like the game. It was just very, very subdued, and say the atmosphere has been quite good at the Etihad this season, but that was a very quiet yesterday. That's the quietest I've known it. Since COVID, yesterday, but. It wasn't great, but as I say, I think the game was so sort of bland. I think it just fed through to both sets of supporters, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's not like us to send like 11,000 tickets back.
Yeah.
11,000. I mean, 1,100 tickets back. Sorry. I mean, God, I wish we had that fan base. It's one of those where we are usually quite well represented away from home. And I think it just got to a point where everyone's like, I'm not paying 30 quid for a ticket. And then, you've got train, drink, the whole day out, just to be coming back afterwards and wake up in the morning hungover and still angry at the fact of another 5-0 loss. And I think that's what people probably have got to a point of. Maybe next season, if we're still in the league, fingers crossed.
Well, he'll be all right. He'll start picking up some points. Get turf more into the sort of citadel that you want, and start getting a few points there, and you'll be fine.
I hope so.
Let's say Newcastle could do just dragging down, get them, and going down with $1 billion in the bank like we used to. So get them involved as well, and. You'll be all right. Burnley will be all right, I think, based on what I saw yesterday. I think Burnley will be fine. I don't think there's going to be a problem. I think Dyche has done okay. They obviously had problems with the takeover last season as well, all stuff like that, didn't you? And I think he's happy with his squad, I think, Dyche, from what I've seen. So I think Burnley will be fine this year, but they'll have to start.
I think we're in an adaptive, we're in an adaptive period, in my opinion, because Dyche has never really had money. He didn't have money at Watford because Watford were a bit cash-strapped at the time. It was only when, he was at Watford for 4 to 6 months, something like that. And then obviously the Pozzo family bought Watford, and he got the chop straight away. So he didn't get to see any sort of finances in terms of, strengthening Watford's team. He's come here, obviously, this new chairman said, we're going to back him. He signed a new 4-year deal. Is it going to get to a point where, we're hoping Dash will actually come in and will actually do something in the market. As you say, we've managed to bring in Carney. We've managed to bring in a Champions League, ready player. He was playing Champions League with Lyon, and he's dropped himself to Burnley. If we can entice that, then obviously there's players out there that we can entice in as well. So we are in an adaptive period. He has got money to spend. We're rumoured with bringing in Ross Barkley in January, which I think would be probably a decent loan move. I think, because his wages will be quite astronomical. But other than that, who knows? Who knows? As I say, it's still early doors, but it's coming up to that Christmas period where you start to get worried a little bit, where for where you are. So if it gets to the Leeds game on the 2nd of January, and we're still in that bottom 3, I may start to panic a little bit.
Yeah. I just know you have to go, Bernard.
Yeah,
so
I've got to get off now. I've got to present a City pod now. So if you get me on Twitter at Charles Deneen, and all the links to my YouTube channels, etc. on there. So it's been great being on with you, Dan and Charlie. Fantastic. Hopefully to be on with you again, Dan, very soon. And,
yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely.
Yeah,
thanks
so,
for
you two stay safe, and I'll catch you when I can, guys.
Yeah, I'll speak to you soon, mate.
See you later.
Cheers, pal. Nice to meet you.
See you in a bit. Just quickly, last question, Dan. Man of the match, who would you give it to?
Oof. I'd have to say Bernardo Silva. I don't think you could give it to anybody other than him. He ran the show, to be honest. Okay, yeah, he grabbed the goal. The goal could have come from anyone, to be honest. It were only a tap in. It weren't a worldie, were it? So other than that, I think if he wasn't on form, then it could have been worse than what it were. But as I said I'd take the 2-0 scoreline, and I will, like you said, it's practically a win for us. But yeah, it's got to go to Bernardo Silva. I think he's been in top form recently, and hopefully for you guys, it'll continue.
Yeah, definitely. Just quickly before we wrap it up, mate, where can we find you?
So yeah, as you can see, I'm going to hopefully get it right. Yes, right. And so as you can see down there, it is Turf Morehouse TV. We are on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and there is another one. Twitter, funnily enough. How can I forget it? That's the one I'm more prominently on. But yeah, we are trying to delve into a bit of Spotify as well. I say delve into it. I've still not done up with it, so I need to get my backside into gear. But yeah, at Turf Morehouse. Please do check us out. It really does mean a lot. And yeah, check Charlie out as well, because Charlie's channel is absolutely mint. So show him some support.
Cheers, mate. All his links are in the description, so are Bernard. So make sure to check them out. You can find me at MCFC Hibs on Twitter and Dugout Daily on YouTube. We're live again at 10 to 8 for Arsenal Crystal Palace. Hopefully we'll see a Palace win there. That'd be funny. And we'll see in a bit, guys. Take care and peace.